Hey, this is Jana with Pearl Together, and I'm really excited today for this podcast with Michele from Woolens Nosh.
Hi, guys.
Woolens Nosh, you specialize in self-striping.
I do.
So excited to
In
have
fact,
you on the channel today. We've been talking for like an hour, and I'm like, we should record.
yeah. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm super
Welcome.
excited to be here and talking to you.
I'm excited. I just found you last month because one of my patrons is a customer of yours, and she turned me onto your yarn, and I was like, thanks, Susan, by the way. And you know who you are. And so this is my first skein I've ever had of yours. And the only reason I haven't cast on is because I'm knitting a sweater that I'm behind on. So, right. But I'm super excited because it's just lovely.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, I appreciate that. And it's the I know we're going to talk about it, but the base. I love that base.
Well, let's just go ahead and talk about it.
Talk about it.
Can I just give you
I spent a lot of
right away. I'm going to say I love that it's not merino. And before anybody viewers start flaming me for that, merino is lovely and it's fantastic, but it's not as durable for sock yarn. So thank you for having Targhee.
Absolutely. There are a couple other dyers out there who offer their sock yarn on Targhee, but not many of us.
Yeah.
But not there to convert the masses. No. Honestly, I can't tell you how many times I've had people find me, in different ways, and they order a skein and they're like, I don't know about this Targhee. I'll give it a try, I guess, because so-and-so said it was so great. Right. Yeah. And they get it. And they're like, this is my new favorite sock yarn. I love this because it's a little bit plumper than I think a lot of people, a popular base I see is like a 75-25 merino nylon that they'll do for yarn.
Sure.
And it's really a light fingering weight. Right. Whereas this Targhee is not light.
To me, it's more like a truthfully a fingering. It's not a light fingering, but it's not quite a sport, but it is like a truthfully a 3-ply fingering. Yeah.
Right. And so when you knit it up at an 8 to 9 stitches per inch, you get a really good, durable,
I love the colors.
Well, thank you. This is called percolated.
Nice.
And it was based on coffee houses and all that kind of stuff.
I saw that on your website. You have some of that right now in stock, I think.
I do on DK. Yep. I have another sample with it. I made a hat with the DK weight striping.
Wow.
Isn't that great? That's a pattern by Shanalines Designs called Split Decision.
That's neat.
And so you knit it modularly. So you knit this side and then you go back and knit, or maybe you knit this side and then you pick up and knit the side.
That's cool. We'll put the link to that down below. We'll put all the things down below in the video description. That's neat. Fun. Yeah, you have some really fun color combinations and fun names, and I'm super happy that I found you. So just as an introduction, how did you get started? Well, first, how'd you get started knitting? I'm assuming that came first. And then how did you get started dyeing yarn?
We live in Vermont now, but I used to live in Charlotte, North Carolina. And I had a friend on Facebook that was doing a lot of crochet. And I thought, that looks like a lot of fun. I'm needing a new creative outlet. So I went to the local yarn shop and bought stuff to do a crochet scarf.
Right.
And that was kind of fun. But the more I looked at the knitting patterns that were available, the more it seemed like that was more like the things I wanted to make.
Right.
So I started going to the knit shop more often, and they had a knit night, and I finally found my people at that knit night. You know what I mean? So they were all a group of ladies. They were all 15 to 20 years older than me, and they were the most fun and very welcoming. And if I had questions, they would answer them. And they liked to do shawls. That was a big thing because it was in the South and hot, and shawls are a nice thing to knit in that kind of climate.
Yeah.
So, they did a lot of knit alongs. I learned a lot of things doing those. And then, I found socks shortly before we moved to Vermont, and I found self-striping yarn when I was doing the socks. And I still like to go. I'm not like, some people only knit socks or some people only knit sweaters. And, I'm all over the place still, but socks are a really big thing in my heart. I love a sock.
And and you specialize in self-striping, which a lot of dyers don't do, because it's my understanding that there's some techniques involved that make that difficult, or maybe more difficult than variegated or speckled or tonals or whatever. So tell me about that.
Yeah. So the reason I started dyeing is because I knew I wanted to dye self-striping yarn. And it was mostly because I have very wide feet. So I always knit the size, the largest size that comes in a pattern, usually around a 72 stitch sock, right? On a fingering weight. And I was disappointed that when I knit my self-striping sock yarn that I had bought from people, that my stripes were skinny because I had more stitches, right?
Right.
And so I wanted thick stripes like the other people had. So that meant I had to dye myself.
Sure.
So I learned how to do self-striping and dye all at the same time, kind of thing. So, but the thing about self-striping that makes it difficult is that and why a lot of people don't do it, basically what you're doing is taking a giant skein of yarn, a big round giant skein, and dyeing sections of it. And the longer the section of yarn that you do on your circle, the thicker your stripe will be when you knit it in the sock.
Sure.
So for instance, if you think about, let's say it takes 10, this isn't right, but if it took 10 yards to do one stripe of blue.
Okay.
And then I've got 9 different colors. That means I need a skein that's 90 yards in circumference. You following me?
Kinda, yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. Because your circle
10, 20,
your circle's got to be, you have to have sections for 9. Yeah.
9, 10-yard sections, right? So that would be 90. So managing the yarn and creating a 90-yard circle.
How do you even handle that?
I have a warping mill. And what that is weavers use them when they're getting ready to weave their looms, right? Or warp their looms.
Yeah.
So it's basically 2 square rectangles on an angle. They look like if you were looking from overhead, it looks like an X.
Okay.
So if you went around the X, that would be a circle, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So basically you're making a circle. Look, I'm trying to figure out, you're making a circle and then you're folding it so that you squish it up so it's flat, and now it's a line. And you're hanging that line on one end, and then you're going around and around and around, and then you're attaching it at the bottom. Does that make sense?
Kind of.
So now
but I mean, I sort of get it. Yeah, but I can understand why that's more difficult to plan out your color combinations.
Well, yeah, you have to think ahead. You have to know how much each section weighs, because you base the amount of dye you're using on the amount of fiber that there is, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So there's all kinds of planning ahead of time. I think, but really the big thing is, if you don't invest, the equipment is expensive, right? Let's just say it is. It's extremely expensive to get a big warping mill. So they have smaller ones, but then you're spending hours making these these giant skeins.
Yeah.
And then you have to dye them, and then you have to not tangle everything as you're moving it around and handling it. And then at the end of it, you have to skein it back up again. So you need something to put it on to make your skeins for sale again, right? So nobody wants a 90-yard skein. They want a 2-yard skein. Right.
Right.
So there's lots of steps from start to finish. And
Wow.
because
So
I came into it,
nobody needs to complain about your pricing then, because I mean, really, this is, I mean, I'm having a little brain splody.
right. So it is quite labor intensive. Not to say that other methods of dyeing aren't labor intensive, but
no, I know, but this is a whole different thing.
yeah, the number of times that we touch the yarn and do things to the yarn and make sure that we can't, like, because I use cones to
pull from, right?
pull
Initially.
from rather than buying pre-made skeins.
Right.
So just the amount of effort it takes to not tangle something or cut something, or, like,
There's
a
a
lot.
learning curve. I'm sure there's
But
a
I
curve.
love it though, because I'm that kind of person. I love making a process. I love tweaking a process to make it more efficient. Like, I was baker in my previous life. I love having boundaries and understanding those boundaries, but then working all within it to make something different, but still come out with what you wanted. So the creativity, I work really well with bounded creativity like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I still have lots of room to play, but there are rules that I have to follow. So
Make
I
it
like
work.
it.
Yeah. That's really cool. You have some fantastic color combinations.
Oh,
So
thanks so much.
like the percolated thing is really cool. I love the kind of browns with the pops of other colors. I like the earthy thing, but then also, those colors exist in the world and the earth. And I think that's
Sure.
I like that.
Yeah, that one was a lot of fun. I've got, so inspiration wise, I think we were talking a little bit about where inspiration comes from. It's kind of all over the place. So like, for this one is called Swizzle.
Wow.
And it's, my husband and I took a trip to Bermuda one year, and Bermuda has, all the houses are crazy different colors, but they all have a white roof on them. And it's because it's made out of limestone. So when the rain comes down, the roof is a filtration system that fills in a well, it holds the water under their house so that they can have fresh water. So that's why there's white stripes in between all the crazy colors, because it's like the little houses with their white roofs.
Yeah, that is so cool.
And then sometimes pop culture, not a whole lot of pop culture for me, but sometimes. So this is called the Mandalorian, I call it This Is the Way. But the Mandalorian, this is like his uniform that he wears in like one of the first episodes before he changes his armor. So I thought that was kind of fun.
It is cool.
I have an ode to houseplants. This one's called Sprout.
I love that with the dirt, heels and toes.
Yeah, potting soil mini.
Oh,
thanks. So I just took lots of different greens and like blue for a potter.
I gotta okay, what was that one called? Houseplants?
Sprout. It's called
Sprout. Okay. It's an ode to houseplant. Okay. Okay.
Yes. This was one of the first ones I made during COVID lockdown when everybody was on their big houseplant craze. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Everybody wanted to have houseplants and stuff. So that, and then I've recently expanded out into taking all these colors in my self-striping yarns and putting them out on full skeins in case you wanted to do a larger project. So this is the Sprout colorway that I did. It's all the same. I added a couple of colors, but that's basically the same palette. But I've made it on mini so you can make a scarf or whatever else you want to make.
That's cool. Yeah, you've got some really neat hat examples there too.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And you were telling me you made that Musselburgh out of just one skein.
I did. I'm getting it out of. So this is called Falling in Love. It was a collaboration that I did with Denise from Earth Tones Girl. And I made a Musselburgh out of it, and I took one skein to do it. I did this because self-striping yarn, like we were just talking, you have a finite amount of yarn between the stripes, right?
Right.
So they don't work for everything. Right. Like if you want to still be able to see actual stripes, you can only go up to a certain circumference in your knitting, a certain number of stitches.
Or else you're going to end up with one row or half a row. Yeah.
Right. A half a row is a real big problem. But so I have lots of, so for instance, this, when it's knit like a sock, is even, it's about 5 rounds on a sock gauge for each color, and they're evenly spaced.
Sure.
So you can do something like this and still get really great distinct stripes. Now, I will say I do have colorways that are like this. And this is called Spectrum. And it's got the micro stripe in between. So you get about 1 yard per, or 1 round. Per
yeah.
You know what I'm trying to.
Yeah. For the black is only 1 round to separate.
Yes. Yes.
And maybe,
so
or maybe if you're a tiny footed person, maybe it would be 1 1/4 round or 1 1/2 round, depending on the cast on number. Sure.
Exactly. So, but if you tried to put this in a Musselburgh, once you got past the crown, the black would only go halfway around.
Right.
So that's sort of like a public service announcement I would like to make. When you're thinking about what you want to make with your yarn, if you think you want to make a hat or something that has more than, say, 72 stitches at a sock gauge, you know, it's hard to make a blanket statement.
Consider bigger stripes.
Yeah, look for colorways that don't have that micro stripe.
Right. You'd have to.
That's my PS.
Sure. That makes sense. That's logical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's that one. Another, I also do the self-striping on a DK base. Now, we did just talk about Targhee, and I do love the Targhee. In fact, that's what my sweater is. It's a Targhee worsted weight.
And that's lovely.
Thank you.
Can you tell us the pattern? Let's interrupt ourselves for a second. What is the pattern of your sweater?
It's called the Epernay, Epernay, I think. Epernay.
Okay.
And it's by Thea Coleman, Baby Cocktails.
Okay. It's lovely.
And I didn't knit this one. I did ask somebody I paid them to sample knit it for me.
Oh, it's beautiful.
But I just love how it came out. And this Targhee is so good. Look, I've been wearing it for I've worn it at least 5 times straight. Look, can you see any pilling?
No.
Do you see pilling?
No.
Sure don't.
It's beautiful.
Isn't that amazing? I love it.
It's wonderful.
But I did pick a merino base for my DK weight.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why. Because this particular merino base is 100% merino. There's no nylon in here.
Okay.
But the twist is so tight and bouncy, it doesn't pill.
Thanks.
I know. I have socks that I've worn for, like, I'll wear them for a week before I put them in for the laundry. No pilling. It's amazing. But it is super. Can you see?
It's very
round and
and
bouncy.
That's nice. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. So
okay.
So this one is my DK self-striping on a hat, where you hold the off-white here, the natural color is every other round, and then you've got your self-striping yarn in between. I think this is called the February hat.
Okay.
I think. No, it's the June hat. The June hat.
Okay.
And then I've got a pair of mitts that go with it.
The fingerless mitts.
Leftover.
Yeah, that's really cool. Nice.
So,
and what was the mitt pattern? Do you know?
Yeah, it's the Rainbow Adventure by Telly Bean Knits.
Nice.
And then other things you can do with self-striping yarn, you can make baby rompers.
Oh my word. That's darling.
We have a local yarn shop up here called Scratch Supply Company, and one of the employees, I lent this to them for a little while. Um, it was, they call it grandma candy because people
Right?
would come in, oh, I need that for my babies.
Yeah, that's
So,
so darling.
and that's a one skein project. I think this is a 6-month size,
Wow.
and that was cool.
How fun is that? And what color
Yeah.
combination
And
was that?
then
Do you
some,
remember?
oh, sorry. This is called saltwater taffy.
Okay, that's yep, that's cool. Nice. All right.
And then another sample of things you can do with self-striping. Sometimes designers will make designs especially for self-striping yarn,
Right.
right? So this is an example of a shawl where you use self-striping for the edges and then a tonal for the middle. So looks like that. It's called the
That's
Millie Margaret shawl
okay.
by Jennifer Lassonde.
Huh?
Just
Nice.
something different that if you're not a sock knitter,
That's so
you have options.
fun.
And this is called April Showers, this
Mhm.
colorway.
Wow, and in the middle, show me the middle section. Well, there's
Oh, yeah.
cables and stuff.
Well, they're like twisted stitches, or no, they're like Passover
Yeah,
stitches or something.
okay,
They kind
sure,
of look
sure.
like cables, but you don't use a cable
Yeah,
needle.
so they're pretend, yeah, I see. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's neat. That's really neat.
Yeah. That
Cool.
was a lot of fun to make too. All that garter
Oh,
and then that section
oh.
with the fun stitch pattern.
Okay,
So yeah, there
so
you go.
you have you have a fun thing coming up that I would definitely want to talk about. Maybe we should have led with this, but it's kind of like
Mhm.
burying the lead. So you have a really fun Advent kit, and I just found out about this and flipped my bleep when I heard about this. I had never heard of such a thing, and I love, love, love self-striping sock yarn, but I've never had indie dyer self-striping sock yarn. I've always just had like commercial, whatever. And so when I heard about your Advent, I was like, oh, I have to get my hands on that. So
It's gotten to be a thing. People really enjoy it. And when we were talking earlier, I I myself own several advents from other dyers that come with mini skeins,
oh,
right?
sure. Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm definitely getting
Yes,
a
they're
couple
great.
this year, but I can't, the idea of knitting
Keep up
20
with them
grams a
day to
day
day.
through December, I can't,
Mhm.
I mean, I just pressure. It's too
It
much.
is, and there's so much going on. So, it's kinda nice to have an opportunity where you still get something to do every day for 24 days,
I get my
but
treat.
it's a much more manageable thing that you can keep up with at the time, you know?
So explain if you
So,
want to be
but yeah,
clueless like me, then you got to explain how this works and how it
yeah,
comes and what you get.
yep, yep. So I'm not the only dyer that does a 24 color skein, but the thing that makes it unique for us is that we really do make it a surprise for you, the knitter. So we've already we've made 2 identical 50-gram cakes of yarn that we put inside of a little tote bag that will be screen printed with the year, right?
Yeah.
And then it's a center pull ball, so we pull from the center, and so when you get it, you'll have a little tote bag that has 2 pieces of yarn coming out on either side of the bag. And we've even put a little snap on the bag so that you can't see in unless you
So
want to when
don't
you open it.
peek. Don't peek.
And then, it also includes a mini skein for either DK or fingering weight. Those are the 2 weights I offer. And the mini skein will be the color of the same color as the in-between color.
Okay.
So coming out of your bag would be the in-between color.
So it's like a
And that
neutral, and then you have your daily stripe with this neutral that separates your daily stripe, right? Am I
right. So
understanding that? Okay.
you'll knit your toe or your cuff if you want in your mini skein,
Yeah.
right? And then you'll start pulling the yarn out of the ball. And then you'll see today's color. Now, to make sure that I don't ruin tomorrow's color for you, that's why I put that in between color. So when you get to that color as you're pulling it out, you know to stop if you don't
That's
want
your
to see tomorrow.
neutral or your coordinating, your coordinating mini.
Right.
So when you get to the in between, then you know that you're stopping for the day.
Right.
I'm
Now,
so
caveat.
excited about this. And it's only April. The hell?
I know. I know. Now, I will say, excuse me, I will say that if you want to finish your socks before Christmas or by Christmas, you might need to do a little math to figure out how much you need to knit a day.
Okay.
So for me, it takes about the last couple years, I go through the full 24, but then I also need to add in like another 8 or 9 colors before I have my full foot done. Does that make sense? So what you'll want to do, so you get 2 repeats of the 24 colors per 50-gram ball of fingering weight. You'll get just past the heel for most people with 24 colors.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if you want to finish you will knit a stripe a day and not have you won't have any repeating colors for 24 days.
See. Okay. Okay.
But that doesn't mean you're going to have a finished sock by the end of 24 days.
Okay.
So you'll take a look at your gauge. You'll see how far, how much does one stripe get me? I know I need 6 inches. One stripe might get me half an inch. So I know I need to knit this many stripes. So you might need to do 2 stripes a day.
Okay. Here's my
not quite 2 a day.
So you mentioned you have wide feet, and viewers know this about me because I bitch about it all the time. I am not a small human. I am almost 5'10", and I have very large feet. I wear a women's size 12.
Wow.
Right? So I probably will have to knit toe up in this particular case so that then I can do my heel, and then I'll have however much yarn I have for my 50 grams to make the leg however long it's going to be.
Right. You could definitely go that route. Unless you've made lots of socks and when you knit a pair of socks, typically do you use an entire 100-gram skein?
Well, yeah, if I'm knitting toe up, I do. If I have the contrasting, here's the other issue with that's only a 20-gram mini. Sometimes I'm concerned. Well, it depends on how big of a toe.
I've got you on this. I have an answer.
Oh, good. I hoped you would.
So the kit will come with a mini, right? Yeah. Included with the price of the kit. Now I will also give you the option to buy additional minis when you check out. So if you know that you can't get through, you want heels and toes and cuffs, but you know that you can't get that with one, then you can order a second if you'd like. Or what I tell people with the 20-gram mini, especially with the Targhee, because it's a true fingering, not a light fingering. Right. Pick 2, do your heel and your toe, do your cuff and your heel. Pick 2 of the 3. You'll have plenty. But if you want all 3,
then you order a second. If you want option. And the other issue is like we were talking about heels earlier. If you do a shadow wrap or a fish lips kiss or a short row heel, that takes less yarn than the heel flap and gusset if you're doing the contrasting. Right. I prefer a heel flap and gusset. I prefer my customizable toe up series. This is my own little plug here because I like to have my heel flap and gusset on the bottom because it wears better. So I like to knit toe up, but then have the heel flap on the bottom. You've just turned the whole situation on its head, but it works just fine. But yes, the stripes it is gonna look a little bit different. So I don't know. I'll have to think about that. But I also do the shadow wrap or the fish lips kiss, either way, with the slip stitch reinforcement.
Nice.
So, but those short row heels take less yarn than the flap and gusset. So that's a consideration for people also. Right. And it looks better. I think it looks really nice with self-striping yarn. So
you get I used to call it bullseye and it would confuse people by it. But
but that's the
knit it this right.
And I have a video tutorial of that on the channel as well if people want to consider doing an afterthought heel because then you don't interrupt your stripes, and it does look like, because you're knitting the heel in the round in the same way that you're knitting a toe. Yeah.
Exactly.
So I like the contrast. Love it.
I do too. I do too. Well, if I'm knitting a personal pair for myself, I often don't do it with the heel, just because I just want to get on with it. You know what I mean? I don't want to stop and go find my other mini, and then, and then it's not that it's a big deal to weave in ends, but it's when you do a heel flap and gusset and you don't have to, and when you cast, when you Kitchener the end, or you do the bind off on the cuff, you're just done.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's really, I like that a lot.
And I do like cuff down also. I don't know, but I think because I know for a fact that I'm going to want to do the heel, toe, and cuff, all three, I would want the second mini because I have big feet. I like to knit my socks with 72 or even 80, depending on my gauge. And I'm okay with having a little leftover. I'm fine with that.
There you go. There you go.
I'm so excited.
I'll say if you order DK, okay, so like I said, for each 50-gram mini of a fingering weight, you get 2 repeats of the 24 colors. So 4 repeats total, 2 per cake, right?
Okay.
Now DK is twice as heavy. So you get 1 repeat per 50-gram ball, 2 repeats total.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
And with
so you offer the advent either way, in fingering or DK? Okay.
I do.
Okay. All right.
And with the DK weight, I give you a 50-gram mini, because a 20-gram mini isn't going to be, you could pick like one, you wouldn't get heels tough. Yeah. Right. So I do a 50-gram mini. That way also, if for some reason you wanted to do some other thing, you've got more to work with.
Yeah.
Every year I've worked with other women-owned businesses to add in extras. So this year we're going to have candy from Red Kite Candy again. I've done caramels in the past. I'm not sure it's going to be caramels this year. It might be something super special. So they're going to tell me what that is, but I know they're doing the candy. I've got my friend Kristen Drucker is going to include a sock pattern. So you'll get a coupon code for a sock pattern that she's designed specifically that goes well with the advent.
Right.
So that'll be there. And then I'll have some wool wash from Tuft Woolens. Mm-hmm. So you'll get all those in a sweet little package ready to go at the beginning. And it's not holiday themed. Colors aren't lining up with a particular religious
so it's
holiday,
not red and green or like peppermint or colors or whatever. Yeah. So that's really
not at all.
I want to get mine and then like knit my stripe a day or 2 stripes a day or whatever I decide. I'm excited about that. Mm-hmm. So pre-orders, we're going to time it. So this video will be coming up the day that pre-orders go live. So by the time people see this and that it airs, there will be a link in the video description down below where you can hop on over and do your pre-order for this fantastic advent. I'm excited.
Yep. So we'll take pre-order. I know. And then just so that everybody has an idea of what to expect, we will ship everything out. Hopefully I like to get them out before the end of October, at the very latest, the first week of November. Well, and because of how much the package weighs. Yeah. That way you've got 4 weeks for when most people might want to use it, starting at the beginning of December. But that being said, you can use it as a countdown calendar for whatever you want. I've had people do it for birthdays or for other special events. So definitely, but
most people like to use. Like we mentioned earlier, my plan is when I do my daily vlog with Anne, with Anne Frost, and like I was trying to knit a whole 20 gram mini every day and I couldn't do it. And she did an advent kit the year before, and we'd like show our projects, and it's just a lot. So, but I think I could do stripes on a sock every day. I could, and then I would have my own pair of socks at the end of the month to start the new year with my new socks.
I know.
I'm so easily entertained by these things. I'm so happy. And I'll show it every day on my Instagram.
It is definitely less of a commitment, especially in a very busy season. So like for me personally, I had my advent that I bought from other dyers that do the minis, you know, and I would open that and I would ooh and ah over it. And then I would set it down
and make a plan.
And then I would knit. Right. And make a plan. Socks. Whereas I'm knitting and doing my daily knitting advent on the sock. Yeah.
Do you know what your price point is going to be for the kits this year?
It'll be $75.
That's so reasonable.
It is when you compare it to, I mean, it includes the bag and the fun stuff, the labor to put the snap on the bag, all the fun stuff that goes in it, the winding, the extra step of all of that's been included in there.
That's super fun.
If I have an opportunity to do extras, it will only be for the bag and the yarn. I won't have the extra mini parts, but if I have the opportunity to dye extras, those will be available later in the summer. And since it doesn't have the extras, it will be a little bit reduced from that. But yeah,
right.
75 is where we're at.
Fantastic. And then does that include shipping or shipping extra, depending on where people live?
Shipping is additional. Yeah. Shipping is extra.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's less to ship to New Hampshire than Wyoming.
Right. The shipping is a beast. It's my least favorite part of anything. Well, I mean, like the actual packaging of things is fine, but trying to thank goodness that Shopify or what other platforms you use will calculate it for you, because when I first started, I was using one where you just had to estimate and do a flat fee. Yeah. And
that's a whole other thing.
Yeah, it's no fun.
I'm super excited because you're like stealth knitting. I'm working on my sweater, but you're like stealth knitting down here because you're working on the sample for the Advent kits. And I'm like,
yep,
as if I could see over the planet.
I did set it down, but yeah, I started this last night actually.
Oh, you're fast.
And I've got 6, 8, 10, 12, 15 stripes into it. So far so good. I might have to rearrange it a little bit or do a little modification on the formula for one or two of them, but it looks really good.
I'm excited. You know what I kind of want to do? I kind of want to knit a Musselburgh and a pair of socks.
Well, there you go.
How cool would that be to have the Advent kit? And then when you said you could order just the yarn by itself?
Mm-hmm.
Not like a skein, not in cakes, not separated, but just get an extra skein so you could do the Musselburgh.
Well, maybe I'll have some they're just skeins. Typically, unless I run out of bags, you know what I mean? I would still cake them up so that you could have the surprise pulling them out. But maybe I'll offer it. Maybe I could always just see if people want it full 100 gram skeins. Maybe they would.
Super
I don't know.
Exciting. But I have this to keep me happy in the meantime. And then I wrote down a couple of those other colorways to keep me happy for the rest of the year as well. And last year you said you sold out and were done in 5 days.
Right. So I listed the first big batch of what I thought I could definitely dye for the year. And those sold out in about 4 or 5 days. And then we got through those. I was able to offer another batch in the summer.
Okay.
Knowing that I'd be able to get those in. And then at the end, I always have seconds or sometimes short skeins or something, maybe something went wrong like I flipped a couple colors by accident,
Yeah.
or,
Yeah.
something just didn't go quite right. And so those
Yeah.
are usually available at the very end, like when I'm shipping and everybody has, all the pre-orders have been fulfilled. If
Yes.
I've got extras left that are seconds or
So
shorts or something
sometimes
like
late
that.
October or whatever, people could watch. So people can watch for
Yep.
these on your Instagram primarily?
Yep.
Okay.
Or the newsletter. I've got a
Yes.
newsletter you can sign up for. And so that's the most reliable way to get your
Newsletter.
information.
Absolutely.
But then Instagram is my next
Yeah.
step.
I
Is to
know, but
notify
we
people.
talk about that as creators and artists. We talk about that, and Instagram is great. Facebook is great. All these things are great. However, it is like building your house on rented property. And so
Yes.
email is the surefire way to get the information. So I will put a
Definitely.
link to your newsletter. I mean, I know on your website it's right at the bottom. Sign up because I did.
Mhm.
And yeah. So well, I mean,
Yep.
Instagram and all that's fun, but email is more reliable, truly.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Especially if you want, if there's something specific that you're waiting for.
So if I was waiting, you were saying I'm gathering if you were saying there was a colorway that I was waiting for, like I wanted the percolator, percolate.
Percolated. Yeah.
Right.
Percolated.
And it was out of stock, I would know when
Mhm.
it's back in because of the newsletter, not because of
Right.
well, and I've
Right. And
had
I
friends
only
that were just randomly kicked off of Instagram for no reason, or their accounts are
Oh
jacked up. And
no.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, you got emails
Yeah.
more reliable for sure. So
Definitely.
everybody needs to go up
And
and
I don't
sign up for Woolens and Nosh.
I really only send out if there's something going on, like an update with the shop or something like that. I'm not spamming. I'm not sending a lot of like
Yeah.
fluffers kind of things.
Yeah.
It's specifically, this is going to be available in a couple of days or today, or,
it's news we want.
right. Right. And so, maybe twice a month you might hear from me at the most,
Yeah.
that kind of
I
thing.
think it's fantastic. I'm really excited about your advent, and I have to be one of those however many hundred people. So
That's right.
I'm gonna have to like set my alarm for 4 a.m. because your shop update is at 6 Vermont time or something ridiculous, and I'm 2 hours earlier than you. I would
Oh, funny.
refresh.
Well, good news is I can tell you that I try to time it so my shop updates happen on Friday at 8 o'clock Eastern time. So that makes it, even if you were on the West Coast, it's 5 o'clock. Hopefully you're out of work.
Oh,
Right?
PM, not AM. Okay.
PM.
Okay.
Yes.
So
So,
you
and
have
then you have the weekend to make orders, and then I start shipping that following Monday
that's
typically.
good
So,
planning. You're a good planner. No wonder you can manage self-striping.
well,
So we're talking a lot about Advent, but what do you have coming up for summer that maybe people want to know about?
I'm going to be going to a couple of knitting retreats. I will be at Zombie Knit Apocalypse retreat in Minnesota in June,
Oh,
vending there. And then I'll be in Tennessee in July at the Super Summer Knit Together. And both of those markets I'll be vending at. I've got just launched a club, a mystery
oh yeah,
club
tell me about
last
that. I
month.
want to know about that because I went and looked and it said sold out, and I'm like, oh,
I know. I'm baby stepping into it. I would much rather people be disappointed that they couldn't sign up than that they did sign up and then I didn't get the yarn in time. You know what I mean? Like, so we're baby stepping into that. So the club just started. The first installment went out last month, and I'm getting the second one will go out in about a week and a half.
okay.
And because it's brand new, we're limiting the numbers on it just to make
Well,
sure
sure.
that
Yeah.
I'm getting used to the rhythm of it and that I don't overpromise and
And your
under.
workload, and you need to do your scheduling and kind of your adjustment for how that fits into everything else
Right.
you're doing. Yeah.
Right. So we were a little bit conservative with the first month. And then this month I wanted to keep the numbers the same just to make sure that we really are good.
Right.
And then I'm thinking that for May I'll be able to add some more fingering weight. So, but I'll show you the first installment if you want. So people have already gotten this. The inspiration is a butterfly nebula. I don't know if you've ever seen a picture of a butterfly nebula in space.
No.
Look at that.
Oh my word, that's cool.
Isn't that cool? So it's kind of like my percolated socks where I made it like the potting soil.
Yeah.
But I imagine them as stars instead of dirt.
Okay. That's neat.
Anyway. So yeah, so that was the first month of that. The next month is going to be nothing related to space. It's just kind of whatever I feel like for the month in terms of creativity or whatever.
That's really
It is a mystery club. So if that's not something, if there's a certain color that you hate and you just would really not want that color, I'm not giving any hints. Oftentimes I don't even really know. Like,
it's a mystery.
I have
That's
some
part
colors,
of it.
right. I've got some colors planned, but right now they're all fall colors.
Yeah.
So the summer colors, I'm making it up as I go kind of a thing.
That's cool.
And I can't tell you what it's going to be. So, but yes, but if that's okay with you and you've looked at my body of work and you're like, yeah, I like most of what you do, then it's a fun, different thing to do. And you can pause it at any time and all that kind of stuff.
And so what is the cost for a month of a club then?
It's the same cost as a typical self-striping skein plus a mini, which turns out to be $41.
Okay.
For fingering weight. And then DK is a little bit more because you get a 40-gram mini instead of a 20-gram mini.
Right. Okay.
So, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's cool. Okay.
Yay.
So again, sign up for the newsletter if people want to know when you're opening club spots. That's exciting. You're tempting.
And then, and then I've got fun plans for the holidays this year. My first year that I was dyeing, I did a nutcracker series. It wasn't great. Let's be honest. It was my first time, and I was still learning about things, and I never re-dyed it. I was like, oh, I'm not sure this is a repeater. But now that I've got a few more years under my belt and some more experience,
techniques are ironed out.
That's right. That's right. So I'm going to be bringing back the Nutcracker series. So that will be something that I'm really looking forward to those.
Wow. Okay, so you're going to have a Nutcracker series and sock yarn in addition to the Advents.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yep. Okay, that's a lot. Cool.
Yeah. So I think there's about 3 or 4 in the series that I've got like for sure that I'm going to do. So that'll be fun. I'll start doing those at the end of the summer. So for people who want to do gift knitting, or I thought it would be a fun one too, because I know a lot of people have the tradition of knitting Christmas socks for their family. And so this could be something where like, maybe dad gets the Nutcracker and the kids get the other characters or something like that.
For Clara.
Another gin.
Yeah. Huh. That's neat.
Mm-hmm. So that might be something that I'll definitely do a couple of them, but yeah. And then in the fall, the last couple of years, I've done pop-up markets at Rhinebeck. Hopefully that'll happen again this year.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So you have a lot coming up. It sounds like you've pretty well got your year mapped out.
Yeah.
And I just want to cast this on. I'm like, okay, I got to finish this sweater, but I want to cast this on, but I got to finish this sweater. Okay, I have to have some discipline here.
Well, I don't know. You could always, are you one of those people that could be good with like, okay, well, maybe I had one girl who recently knit a pair of socks during 10-minute breaks at work. Like, and it only took her like 2 or 3 weeks to finish the socks just on little 10-minute breaks at work.
Maybe.
So maybe if you had like a time,
I'd have to set a timer, I'm like not that self-disciplined. And when you work from home, you're like, oh, just another 10 minutes. Oh, just one more episode of whatever.
Just one more stripe. Just one more stripe.
But it's 2 a.m, right? That's what happens.
I won't derail you any better. Oh, I know. I
But I
know,
might
trust
anyway. I
me.
might cast them on this week. I don't know. Anyway, I'm really excited for you and I'm so happy to have found you. And now we're all going to be stalking you on
Same.
Instagram and
Come on
pushing the
over.
button for
Come
the
on over.
Advent kits and looking for all the summer updates. That's exciting. Yeah.
Yay.
Cool.
Really glad that we got to meet.
Yes.
Really
Thanks for
enjoyed
joining me on
talking
the
with you.
channel.
My pleasure. Definitely.